Our guest is a serial femtechpreneur. She's recognized as one of the top women in finance. She's also recognized as one of the most powerful women in technology. She founded the first private markets platform. And oh, by the way, she just launched a large-scale multimedia platform focused on making entrepreneurship the next Spectator sport while simultaneously democratizing private markets. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's phenomenal. Female Founder Friday on the Startup Life live show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life live show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, startup coach to first-time founders. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now help newly minted founders sleep through the night by giving them peace of mind. And how do I do that? I call it Ande-licious advice. And it's hardcore startup business strategies and solutions delivered with a high enthusiasm and an abundance of inspiration and joy. Thank you for carving out time to tune in and up your founder game while cheering on a fellow founder. For those of you watching now and via the replay, please click this video and be sure to click the YouTube subscribe button. Thank you. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, the one, the only, I call her the magnificent Mona DeFrawi. And let me just pull some slides up so you can get a good idea of who this woman really is while I tell you about her background. So Mona, as I said earlier, a serial entrepreneur who has been a team member of 10 startups over 3 decades, the last as 4 as founder and CEO. She's been recognized as one of Forbes' most powerful women in technology and as one of the top 100 women in fintech. Now, check out this. See any other women in this slide? Oh, no. Over her career, Mona has raised or participated in the placement of over $1 billion of VC, PE, and LP funding. And because this is a visionary, as I mentioned earlier, right? Mona took her vision of democratizing the private markets and created Radivision, a platform that connects consumer audiences with the startup ecosystem to make the entrepreneurship the next Spectator sport. Oh my gosh, who does that? I'll tell you who does that. Our guest does that. Welcome to the show, Mona. Woo!
Good morning. Great to be here, Ande.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you here, Mona, and so thrilled that you could join me live right here on the Startup Life live show, where we are streaming live, folks, excuse me, across LinkedIn, Twitter or Periscope, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And I am so sorry. I'm going to have a drink of water today because I'm just so excited. Mona's here, everybody.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Ande.
Oh my gosh. And so I like to remind everybody, Mona, this is a great opportunity to amplify what you all are doing as startup founders with your businesses. So please do not hesitate to throw, excuse me, your name and business name and URL in the comment section so that we can amplify you while we're talking about Mona. Oh my gosh. So this has never happened to me with the, so anyway, hey, Laura, so good to see you. Be sure to put Zaze into the comment threads with the URL so we can amplify your incredible premium olive oil business. Yay. So Mona, where are you hailing from?
Silicon Valley. I'm here in Menlo Park.
And folks, I want you to know, I didn't show this earlier, but let me just bring this lovely photo up. There we are. I met Mona when she was at a pitch event, and I was visiting San Francisco at the time. And as one does, I needed to go find a pitch event to go to. And that's how I met Mona. And I've been a huge fan of hers for a long time. That was just a year ago. Oh my gosh, almost 2 years ago, Mona.
2 years. It was 2018, actually. You've been here all the entire journey with us.
Oh my gosh, from that like little inkling, that little vision. And it's incredible, folks. It's such an honor to watch someone take a vision like Mona's. When she started talking, I mean, I said, do you have a decoder ring so I can better understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish? But as she explained it to me and shared it, I just saw this incredible vision. And as you saw, this little piece of, this is what, when you go to radivision.com, this is what you're going to be seeing. Original content that's ideal for entrepreneurs. We're going to get into it very quickly. But before we do, Mona, I want to play the Radivision video. Can we do that now?
Sure.
Thank you, because I'll play it again, folks, just in case, because people come in and out as we go along. Here we go. Okay, you get the picture, folks? This is a honking platform with Netflix-like content. It's amazing. So Mona's going to be sharing all about it. I just want to go back to the lineup here. Okay, thank you, Laura, for sharing Zaze. Okay, so Mona, this is olive oil that's farmed from Turkey, and by farm, that's right.
What a coincidence. Yes. I love it.
And all the farmers are female.
Amazing.
Right? So it's incredible. Laura is doing amazing work.
So
and
here to be telling her story on Radivision. That's what Radivision does, is tell the stories of amazing entrepreneurs like Laura and like you, Ande.
Thank you. And here, another Egyptian goddess, Raja. Raja. I got my Invisaware. Okay, everybody, Invisaware. This is like you click it twice. If you get into a desperate situation, you feel that you are not safe, and boom, local first responders will come and help you, whether it's being in an accident or you are about to go under from some kind of date drug, situation, any compromised situation, and you fell and you can't get up, whatever. And it comes in wonderful bracelets, and it comes in a scrunchie. So if you're at the gym, you can have it with you, keychain, neck, you name it. Raja, I've been there since it was a twinkle in her eye, has done a phenomenal job. So thank you for swinging by and saying hi to another Egyptian goddess. Yay! And yay, Mia Voss, who wears many, many hats as a, oh my gosh, lifestyle blogger, construction crew person, building inspector, you name it. She does it all. And she's an incredible live stream, folks. Fellow Egyptian. Oh, thank you, Raja. Yay. And thank you, Mia Voss, for sharing your, hold on, let me bring that back up here. Mia Voss Live. Everybody, you go there and you're going to have, listen to the Shit We Don't Talk About podcast. And I got to tell you, they go into some amazing, amazing topics on that. We have a film producer. Yay. Wasn't that promo amazing? Love it too, Ted. And then we have Sat, who's going to be with us next week, sharing his incredible smart bot, Maya, which will be great. And yes, oh, good. You'll connect with Mona. Wonderful. Hey, Dan, how you doing? Okay, exactly. Mona's vision is amazing. Amazing. And thank you. I wear it everywhere I go, Raja, because of course. And yeah, impressed by Mona. Wait till you hear how the women in her life have served her and helped her pave the way to be the ambitious, audacious female founder that she is. So, got all that promo goodies out of the way. I can now speak again. My gosh, it's that wintertime allergy thing. I don't know. Mona, I got to tell you, I always love to find out, where were you when you knew you wanted to be a founder, where you didn't want to have any of those glass ceilings in your way, where you wanted to go in and be everything. And I also want to know, while you're answering that question, why technology? Because a lot of women have had some pretty bruising experiences entering a field that was so male dominated when you entered it. So first talk about why entrepreneurship with us.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that I was a born entrepreneur, but didn't know it. It took me a long time to figure it out. I couldn't even figure it out in college. I loved everything that I did. I liked everything that I did, but there wasn't that one love, that one passion. And I was very lucky that I was raised without glass ceilings, so I had great women in my life who were doing amazing things, like my grandmother, who was one of the first 3 women allowed to go to college in all of Egypt. So in 1929, and she was the first to graduate medical school in 1934. And I had a mother who had her PhD from Berkeley at 23 years of age. So in my family, it was normal for the women to be working at their highest career level, love their work. And in fact, the only career advice I ever followed was from my grandmother, who just said, just find what you love and work to be the best at it, and everything else works out. So I followed my heart. That's how I found my career. And then I know tech can be extremely bruising to people, but I was always on the communication side of tech, where it wasn't quite as bruising. I wasn't an engineer, in the boiler room with all the guys, but I do remember one of my very first events that I went to right after I graduated with my MBA, and there was maybe 80 to 100 people in the room, and I was one of 2 women. So, but sometimes it works for you. I met my first boss after graduation there, and one of the most incredible people in the world, who I'm still in touch with today, 30 years later.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That is wonderful. And so you started to get in with the startups, because some of your startups became, IPOs, yes?
Well, yes, I almost started there. So I spent my first 2 years after, I did some work while I was doing my MBA. So, and just fell in love with it. And what I fell in love with really was the spirit of entrepreneurs. So more than the tech, it was about the people, that they didn't see limits. They didn't see glass ceilings. They had a vision of making the world a better place, of saving lives, of curing diseases. And that's what got me excited. And they kept going, and they created the impossible. And that, to me, was what life was all about. It was what it was meant to be. And I wanted to be there to help in my small way. And then after graduation, the gentleman I met as one of 2 women in this room of 100 men, and he was building one of the first technology commercialization offices in the country. So this was at the University of Maryland. And so I helped build that office with him. I was the first executive hire. And so I learned about patents and the commercialization programs at the state. I was very lucky being at the flagship state school, had all this funding resources for entrepreneurs. So that was really exciting. And then after 2 years more of commuting an hour or more each way, I left this amazing boss who I'm still good friends with, and the investor relations opportunity came up. So I had a CEO ask me if I could do investor relations, and that was the beginning from the first company that had just IPO'd. And I managed the communications with the CEO for Wall Street, wrote their annual report, wrote their decks. And so that was the beginning of a 10-year career doing investor relations for 3 companies, and then vice president of corporate development from the 4th.
Awesome. And then what made you want to hang out your own shingle?
Well, I was an entrepreneur, born entrepreneur. And I never thought that, I always thought I would be a support person. I love supporting, I love helping, I love making people the best that they can possibly be. And mind you, during the 10 years of the 90s, when I helped with 4 IPOs, I also had 3 children. So I say I had 3 children and 4 IPOs in 10 years. So really,
okay,
7.
Everybody. Okay, moms out there. Now, Laura, founder of Zaze, has 5 children, so she can understand, but 3 children, 4 IPOs.
In 10 years.
In 10 years. Okay, hold on. we need to praise you like you should. That's a lot. Everybody got through it okay. And this is the 90s, folks. So we were transitioning out of the Bush administration into the Clinton years, and then we were getting into the .com world, and it was just a buzz with things going on until 2000. That's an extraordinary trajectory, Mona. Oh my gosh.
It was good timing. It was just being in the right place at the right time. The economy was booming. these entrepreneurial startups were creating all the job growth and economic growth in the country. Yeah. And it was an exciting time for us, and we were doing great work. And then towards the end of the decade, it became all about money, and things started shifting. And I knew I needed a break at that point. So I made a change in my career out of investor relations. And in the nick of time, because about 9 months later, the market crashed. And at that point, I was beginning to build the entrepreneurship program at Johns Hopkins University in the School of Engineering.
You guys, did you hear she said that? And so I began building the entrepreneurship program at Johns Hopkins University.
One class.
It doesn't matter. That's extraordinary, because you have to set up the curriculum. You have to start building, what is it that you want folks to know, and build on so that they can go off and have an extraordinary experience. Okay, folks, can we just have like some comments in the threads about this background here? So amazing. Yes, I agree. Superwoman. And that's from the mother of 5. That's right. That's right, Raja. And so I know you'll be raising that kind of money too, and maybe IPO for Invisaware. Why not? And so now you've built up this reputation. You're really getting a solid foundation, because folks, when you start to teach, it's really when you become a master of your craft, right? And your ability to understand what you're doing and then teach others to do it means you've nailed it. So you've got all this behind you, and we're going through the 2000s. What happened then? Like, where did you go and build your next round of knowledge?
Well, it's funny, while I was teaching, which I knew I would love, I was the daughter of 2 professors, neurobiology at Cornell and pharmacology at University of Maryland Medical School. So I love to teach and I love to learn always. And I think that's why I like being an entrepreneur, because you learn every day. There hasn't been a boring day in 3 decades. And the people I meet are always fascinating and always stimulating, like you, Ande, and everybody who's tuning in today. And I love these people, which is why I built Radivision, to really promote and help and support, just like I've been doing, all 30 years. So, for me, it's, just been, one long journey. So while I was teaching at Johns Hopkins, I had more time on my hand. I didn't have a PhD, so I was only teaching 1 course part-time. And I ended up starting a passion project, a business accidentally, which was a yoga studio, believe it or not, which is about the lowest margin business you can possibly go into. And I did this for fun. I didn't play golf. And so I did yoga. So I thought I would increase my craft, and there wasn't a place to teach. And I thought, well, how hard could this be? It was the hardest business I've ever had. But it was a love. And it actually, the students and the new owners of the business that I sold, I built it from 2002, sold it in 2006. And it's a thriving community. They're all still doing yoga almost 20 years later, which is, I'm really proud of that. So I feel like with that, I actually shifted a community. So I was doing this, a small business, while I was teaching big business at Johns Hopkins. And it was really interesting, the juxtaposition. And yoga is about a 10% margin business. It's very small. So the fact that we could make that work, to me, I felt like if I could make that work, I could do anything.
That's right. Literally, for you small business owners, sometimes it's easier to do the big tech business than it is to make that low margin local business work and thrive. So we all have very deep respect for you small business owners. I know Anne-Marie. Hi, Anne-Marie Messler, one of the best mentors out there for business owners. A phenomenal local goddess here. Great to see you. I know Mona is so exciting. I agree 100%. So now you're trickling along. When did you say, okay, because here's what's interesting about Mona, folks. She understands what private markets are all about. So I'm going to have you talk about private markets, how, we had the Crowdfunding Act in 2012, which would let more people invest under the umbrellas of crowdfunding platforms who were SEC approved and could do all that regulation, equity funding, and we just throw in our money, 100 here, 500,000, whatever. However, you knew it could be even better than that, because you're still, you still need to bring the investors the really good deals, folks. And this is what Mona's going to talk about. And we see such bottlenecks with the VCs and angels. How did you go from that in multimedia, your background being in communications, Clearly you had an understanding. I just want to hear how this, what were you like in a yoga position when the idea came to you?
Pretty much. The yoga inspires. So actually, I sold the yoga studio and I was thinking, well, who's going to hire me now? It's been almost 5 years. I've been teaching and, the small business, and I've been working barefoot for most of the time. And I got a call from a great VC who made an introduction, and I ended up going to work with a DC firm, a brand new private equity fund, and I raised $500 million in about 6 months for them. So, and I really credit my success to the yoga, because the yoga optimized me. Okay, so I could work 80 hours in a week without, falling apart. I had very intense schedules. I was commuting to DC. My alarm went off at 4:45 every morning. I had 2 nannies, because I had to manage the kids so many more hours while I was doing this, and then traveling a lot. And it was very exciting. And it was a great story to sell, which is how we raised it so quickly. And at the end of this time, I had one of my former IPO company board members, who was the founding partner of NEA, was also, I brought him in as an advisory board member on the private equity fund. And he said, well, if you can do that, come fix the IPO crisis in Silicon Valley. And I had always wanted to move to California, and it was time in my life for a new chapter. So I came to Silicon Valley, and he said, we need to help fix the IPO crisis. It's really an issue. All these funds that were raised during the bubble in 99 and so on were getting ready to expire. And the next morning I woke up with the idea fully in my head. He wanted me to have a conference, and I said, okay, we'll do your conference, but we're going to create a match.com between all of the public buyers, shareholders that I used to work with in my 10 years of investor relations. And we're going to bring all of the venture-backed companies that used to go public in 3 to 5 years in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That's what the venture industry model was built on. And now in 2007, when we were talking, they were 7, 8, 9 years old. None of them were going public. The markets had changed. And I said, we're going to bring all the top companies and all the top buyers, and we're going to have a match.com. And we're calling this Inside Venture. Let's build this tech platform. It's really an investor relations platform. So, and we called it the direct private market. So that was the beginning of the private markets. And this was, it took me 9 months. So in April of 2008, talking to a lot of VCs, building a consortium, connecting to Silicon Valley Bank, whom I had met while raising the private equity fund, and convincing them that this was a solution. And they all decided to fund my concept. And I had a 10-slide deck, and it was just me at the time. You can't do that anymore, by the way. The world has changed. Not even I can do that anymore. So this was in 2008, and we raised the money. We came out in 2009. We had more than half of the top buyers signed, like the whole, ecosystem of institutional buyers. More than half were members of our platform, and we had nearly 100 companies that were, in the pipeline to IPO already on the platform, which is really great. Well, we created the private markets.
Okay, so first of all, I just texted this out to the chat threads to everybody, from working barefoot as a yoga studio owner, mom of 3, to raising $500 million for an IPO in 6 months, to getting a call, hey, come to Silicon Valley. We'll do lunch, and we want you to fix the IPO market. Wow. Now, let's go a little deep into the lingo, okay, so everybody understands the private market. What does that mean?
Yeah, so companies used to go public in 3 to 5 years, and now it was, in 2007, it was 7, 8, 9 years. Today, it's 10, 11, 13 years. I mean, Airbnb was 13 years old.
Why is that? Why did it used to be 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, so that's where it gets a little complicated. But in the late 90s, the actual structure, the infrastructure of the financial markets changed. Everything went electronic. Mm-hmm. And so there was high velocity trading. More hedge funds came out. So most of the IPOs were bought by mutual funds, which are highly regulated by the SEC. Hedge funds were far less regulated. They were able to amass a lot more money. And then the big banks, whose clients were the hedge funds, came in, saw this thriving IPO markets from the booming 90s, and they came in and they totally shifted the market to large bank economics. So most IPOs went out with 100 million allocation or less. So Microsoft, Apple, Intel, all these companies, that's how the venture industry was built for decades. And now all of a sudden, everything had to get to be very large to fit the large bank needs and the large client needs. And this was invisible to most of the world, including the VCs. So that's part of the reason the dot-coms grew so big. It was this gold rush to San Francisco.
That's right.
But most of it was about big bank economics. And at the same time...
Wait, Mona. Big bank economics meaning debt financing.
No. Big banks. So there used to be 4 investment banks that they called them the 4 horsemen.
Okay.
In San Francisco, 1 in Baltimore, Maryland, Alex Brown and Sons. They were all bought by larger banks. And so the small banks disappeared and their clients were the VCs. So they, wanted to keep going back to the VCs and having this conveyor belts of deals, pipelining to IPO. And then all of a sudden, when the big banks came in, the clients shifted from the VC firm to the hedge funds with the big dollars. And they wanted to come in, do a transaction, sell it quickly and move on. So the nature of the market changed from like a marriage, long-term investing environment to a 2-day holding period. You do the IPO and you're gone in 2 days.
But it's going to take you 5, 7, 10 years to get to that moment.
And now it was taking longer because in order to get the big dollars in, you had to have a bigger company. So it took longer to get to that bigger company.
So you had to aggregate, this is, and in the dot-com, because I had a dot-com from 98 to 2000, what we saw all the time was acquisition, and build up, and then boom. Right. And those darn hedge funds. Dang. Okay.
Well,
so
I mean, now the deals are getting bigger, but what it takes to get there. And most VC firms now, they won't even consider you if you're not going to be $1 billion valuation or above. You have to be a unicorn. So we started, we called it the private markets because, there was this space now from 3 to 5 years to 7, 8, 10 years. And there was no name for this. So in between a startup and in between the public markets. So we called it the private markets. And our goal was to make this function more like the public markets. So we would have the data available for, our investment group, our investment members, so that they could really qualify these companies and make good investment decisions based on the actual performance of the companies, which is hard to get because if you're private, the information isn't out there, right?
Absolutely. And then you'd have to go through the whole process of reviewing the deck, meeting with everybody. It's not pre-screened.
Right.
You set it up so everybody was pre-screened for...
Yeah. And plus they also had their information already in due diligence data rooms. So it was deal ready. And the companies had control of who could see their private confidential information. And remember, in the public world, the investors are buying common stock. So every share is the same. Whereas in a private company, there's common stock and then there's preferred stock, which has preferences. And each series has different preferences, different valuations, different ratchets and liquidation preferences and bells and whistles. So it's not apples to apples like the public markets. It's much complicated. Yeah. So
much more complicated.
Right. So part of what the platform was doing was communicating, all these pieces of additional information. Yeah.
We didn't have Crunchbase. We didn't have Angel.co then to quickly do a quick scan on what people had going on, how much they'd raised. And still that wasn't enough. Anybody like me going to school? I mean, right now we are getting the funding 101 from the goddess of investor relations and raising. Remember, everybody, participated in and helped raise over $6 billion in VC, PE, and LP funding. That's a lot to have under your tiara as a founder. So of course you understand. And this is why the crowdfunding platforms are having to be so careful when they're raising money, the equity crowdfunding platforms, because they've got to make sure they have all the SEC docs out there about the company, that it's full disclosure, even though it's private. And it's really hard. And do you think raising money has gotten more complicated now for founders than it was back in the 80s and 90s?
I do, absolutely. It's funny because you'd think it would get easier as an industry matures, but I think it's gotten harder. And that's part of what I'm here to fix. And not only that, but I remember, hearing on stage, VCs saying, oh, they would look at 300 deals a year and invest in 1 to 3. And then it became 600 deals a year and then 1,500 deals a year. So that's about the number I'm seeing now, most VCs. So it's gotten much more difficult. There's more companies starting up because it's easier to start a company.
And given it's a meritocracy out there, folks, now you understand why, well, until the pandemic, it was 3% of this funding were going to women, much less for our BIPOC founders. And now today it's back down to 1%. And it's because, in my opinion, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about this, the agenda for those funds, they want to get, I mean, certainly not a sure bet, but as close to one as they can. So they start adding in, values that are important to them. They look like me, they've got this degree, all of these things, instead of really understanding that it's the founder that will get them through. What do you think about that, Mona?
I agree 100%. And, a lot of that bias is not even conscious, right? It's unconscious bias. It's what makes you feel strongly. But a lot of it also is SaaS model. If you're not a typical SaaS model, everybody's looking for that de-risk deal. So you already you basically have to have the business built before you can raise the money and then have it chugging along beautifully. And then when you really don't need the money anymore is when, the investors are ready to come in. But we had a pitch just a month ago with someone interested in our fintech products. And essentially, she couldn't understand. And this was a female investor too, who loved us, at the beginning of the year and said, hey, come back when you have revenues and you've built more of the team. As a solo founder, they weren't that interested in solo founders. So I had to go get the witch's broom, and I came back and I said, hey, we went from less than 10 people. We're 22 people. I have an amazing co-founder who's a data scientist and other, senior managers now on the team. And by the way, we have 6 million in revenues in conversation, ready to sign any day now. And so let's talk. And then it became, okay, well, let's go to the next level of revenue. So there's your media revenues, but we really want, and she didn't say it in these words, but they really wanted SaaS. Yeah. So it's a matter of them being able to sell it within their own partnership because they need votes to do that. And having a SaaS model that's $2,000 a month growing to $10,000 to $20,000 to $200,000 to $2 million a month, and like Slack has and Dropbox, how many of these subscriptions do we all have now? Right.
And so we can understand why MailChimp just said, I'm just going to stay with bootstrapping the whole way. Mona, okay, so now you had this great, rich experience of bringing the VCs and the money together with the business, the privately owned businesses that were looking for Series A, B, C, D funding. And you saw how that worked. You saw the whole matchmaking in the private markets, which you realized we needed more access.
Well, yeah, the private markets were more for like IPO. They were really like Series E and D and H sometimes, but and then they were prepping for IPO. And so a company had already made it. People had put in hundreds of millions, and now they felt safer doing secondary deals, which is what our acquirer focused on rather than the IPOs. And then out of what I did, Angel.co came out. As soon as we did the IPO market, they kind of came out for the angel market. And the SEC, so after I sold the company, people who had worked with me came out for the Jobs Act. And then a couple of years after that, the Crowdfunding Act came out. And with crowdfunding, you have to understand, to me, I read that as the SEC is really desperate. The economy is not growing to where it needs to go. They're very aware that there is a global wealth divide, right? We're growing wealth faster than ever in human history right now because of the entrepreneurial revolution and the power of equity to grow wealth so quickly. But who gets into that equity? Qualified institutional buyers that are in institutions, 100 million in funding or more, and accredited investors who are 2 million of assets or more. So anyone who's an unaccredited investor, they can't get in. And they've been cut out for 20 years since the late 90s when that financial market infrastructure changed. Yes. So that's the SEC is aware of this painfully. They want to create more economic growth in the country. And our hands are tied because everybody's interested in the multi-billion-dollar deals only, and only the big boys can play in that. And that's so right. And I say no. In the 90s, when I did my 4 IPOs for 10 years, half of my shareholder base was unaccredited investors. It was retail or consumer investors, half. We used to have stockbrokers. Remember stockbrokers? Yes. And they were professional investment managers and a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to manage your retirement funds so that you wouldn't be too much risk or just enough risk for what your financial goals and timing were. So that disappeared. And I believe that I can help rebuild this, because they would bring the customer in and then they would qualify them and then they would introduce deals to them. So now with artificial intelligence and with the help of media as the most powerful consumer engagement device out there, we can engage the consumer, qualify their abilities, and help direct them to the right investment professionals who are licensed. We're a media company, they're licensed, and they can come in and help place them into the right deals.
Yeah, so let's step back for a second, because in order to make that happen, you had to create a playground, a landscape that would bring in founders. So, I just want to know, what was it that triggered that little kernel of, all right, so we have this really cool content and we do this, and then we have an opportunity to share with folks how that works.
Honestly, I don't think it was a conscious decision. Most of my, career, again, I followed my heart, and the right opportunities have always just been there when, usually there's a gap, I want something and then it shows up. And so for me, I was definitely, I wanted to build more of Inside Venture. I didn't have the chance to really finish it properly or to sell it to the right acquirer, to be perfectly honest. So I was not happy with what the acquirer was doing. Instead of helping the 100 companies I wanted to help, they took the one company that didn't need any help, Facebook, and they sold a lot of their stock. They made headlines and money. They screwed up Facebook, honestly. They pushed them to IPO much sooner than Facebook wanted. They had the face plant IPO. If you recall, they went out at, 35, 40, and they were down to $18 in 2 weeks, and they stayed down for a year and a half. So it closed the IPO market for the next 18 months to 2 years. So it really ruined that. So for me, my desires were along, they really messed this up. I don't know how to fix this right now. But at the same time, I had a family to support. So I started, the opportunity that came up was traveling to the Middle East. And there were a lot of investors who were looking for private market stocks. If they Googled private market, they came up with me at some point. And being Egyptian, I got connected to several of them all in the same month. And all of a sudden I was traveling to the Middle East. So in between 14 and 16, I spent about a quarter of my year abroad. And I was amazed to see so much entrepreneurial activity. I was keynote speaker at the ArabNet conference in June of 14. Over 1,000 people from all over the Middle East converged into Dubai. I was blown away by the level of interest. And everybody was first generation ecosystem, almost no mentors, almost no advisors, very few investors, but so many entrepreneurs with so many ideas and so much creativity and innovation and energy and wanting to make the world a better place and wanting to create all these great products and services. And I said, you know what? There's so much in Silicon Valley and they have so little ecosystem here. Why can't we create, use media, an online platform, a way to connect them to the knowledge and so that they can have better companies. So that was the beginning of, the germination of the idea. And then over time, I realized that we really needed to create this like a digital television network. So first we were like the Vice media for entrepreneurship. And then we became more like the ESPN for entrepreneurship. So just like ESPN does sports, and it really organizes this massive universe of sports, right? You can watch basketball and baseball and women's sports and golf and tennis and just about anything. And you can go get the statistics on the teams and the owners and the managers and commentary.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I knew that the statistics would be really important on the companies and on the funds and how are they doing. And then we know from, how do consumers today connect to entrepreneurship in America? Because this is a business, right? We have Shark Tank. Exactly. 11 years, one show.
Right.
Massive success. It's a phenomenon. And it's the #1 show that families watch together, which during COVID, families need something to watch together. And, but I thought we could do better than this.
Yeah. And so folks, look at some of these titles. First, Driven, which is so cool. We saw that in the promo piece. Get into a car with a seasoned founder and get some advice while you drive around. Then we have the visionaries, and I should be letting you tell everybody. You do the snapshot of Driven, Mona.
Okay, so Driven is one ride, problem solve. So it's an actual team of, an investor or mentor with their CEO, and they're actually working through a real problem the CEO has at that point in time. Because what founders need to succeed is usually not found written somewhere. It's given in a direct verbal transmission, from mentor to founder, just like guru to disciple. It's a verbal tradition, and it's the cutting edge, the latest information. That's why we come to you, Ande, and we listen to your shows and videos so we can learn. And so that was Driven. And then later, after I came up with the idea, I learned of carpool karaoke and Jerry Seinfeld. I'm like, oh, this is like carpool karaoke for entrepreneurs. And then the Visionaries was designed to be just a quick little snapshot of founders, like humans of New York, but humans of entrepreneurship. And so I want to make this a thing where every founder can have their Visionaries episode, and that people will come to watch the show and they'll just learn about all these amazing founders who are all doing really cool things. And it's a great way to promote the companies and the great products while people are being entertained. So I created Radivision to be entertainment.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really about the world's most inspired people. So just like Disney has the Marvel franchise with all the superheroes, we have all the real heroes, like the Real Housewives, but the real heroes.
The real entrepreneurs who are really doing it and how they're doing it.
People are fixing climate change. People are curing cancer, all through building companies at the same time.
And as we all know, as founders, it's not just this boom, 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 done. It's woo. And that's what makes it so exciting as a spectator sport. I know Mia will love this title, how not to get whooped. Okay. Because how many people have been bleeped by being a founder?
It's a 90% failure rate industry. We've left the Industrial Revolution behind. The numbers have been declining since 78. Okay. We are squarely in the entrepreneurial revolution. Only the top 10% can invest and grow from it. It's a business. The only way to really learn about it is to be an insider and give up your career and become an entrepreneur. It's ridiculous. And it's a 90% failure rate. I mean, people, it ruins lives. There's train wrecks. So and a lot of people are making the same mistake over and over and over. So really, this is a show about success. It's about how not to make these mistakes and what to look for. And we have 4 seasons planned. So we're in conversations now and working on our
so exciting.
Yeah.
And then exciting. The next one, Parachute. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Parachute is like Anthony Bourdain, his show for entrepreneurship. So we want to parachute into all of these different locations across the globe, just like I did in Dubai in 2014, and see this ecosystem. Each one has a unique flavor, just like Parts Unknown, and there's, and we're going to talk to the leading investors and the leading companies and go to the events and film there. And then we're also going to have fun and try the food. And, like in Dubai, we might do the desert races. So the people all meet in the desert and they drive around in their cars in the sand, and there's camel races and there's zip lines from 60-foot tall skyscrapers down into parks. And
Andy Jack, my co-host, would love that. And then finally, Pitch Planet.
Yeah, so we have like 10 shows, but Pitch Planet will be a show where, there's pitches happening all over the world all the time. And I want to create a channel where all of them are actually being broadcast. Ideally, we would include all the other pitches. They wouldn't just be our own. And then the idea is by making this fun and making this entertainment, we're going to help bring millions more eyeballs to all of your companies, because you're the ones creating all these great companies. I'm just here to support you. And we want more people to understand how this works and the culture and the language. We have our own language. Embrace failure and move fast, break things. And, we even have our own money. Equity is the new money.
That's right. Equity is the new green. And here's what's challenging, folks. My .com was a multimedia platform. It was called College Broadcast. We provided entertainment content to the college market on cable, because that's where we were transitioning from, online and on campus. It's not easy to just create incredible content. You saw what just happened to Quibi. They went through $1.8 billion and they went down the tubes, and they were just creating these 10-minute segments, and they had big people and money behind them, right, Mona?
Yes, amazingly talented people.
Yeah. And so, pulling this together, folks, is not for the faint of heart. So fortunately, when we look back on Mona's background, you can see every step of the way she was building resilience muscles, tenacious knowledge, understanding all the different players, taking her key background in communications and turning it into successful outcomes, plus her vision to see what needs to be happening that's way out here, which means it's going to take quite a few years for everybody to come up, which means you've got to keep your business moving forward in spite of that. It's amazing. But you had to do what every other founders had to do when you came up with your idea. You had to sort of build a website and pull together a minimum viable product and then tell folks about it. So please share, how did you prove that value prop? Because you were talking about businesses have a huge, in the 90s, failure rate. 42% of those failures are due to the fact that the market doesn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right. So the first step we did was to see if the market wanted it. And we worked with the content. So what was the point of building a technology platform if people didn't like to watch this content? So I created a few episodes of Driven and a few episodes of The Visionaries. And then, I had these professionally done. I paid, a terrific producer director who's Emmy Award winning to do them. And then we went onto Facebook. We did a prototype website and then marketed it on Facebook. And on $5,000 of ads, we had over 1 million video views. And you can even dig into them. You can see them on Facebook. So if you dig back to 2017, when we tested this in May of 17, 100% of the comments were positive. The people in the series, in the episodes, were deluged, like 800, requests coming in on Facebook from, their 2.5-minute video. And we also had 100,000 people leave Facebook and go to our website in the first month. So
okay, everybody, whoa. We got to stop and take that in. Say that number again.
100,000 people. So 10% of the people who viewed the videos actually came to our website. So we had 100,000 MAUs according to Google Analytics. In our first month.
So folks, anybody who's trying to get somebody off of social media to your website, that's really hard. And I know that Anna Pereira from the Wellness Universe is going to love hearing this too. It's, it can be sometimes like herding cats, but you created the content that they wanted more of and they wanted to check it out. So that's a great MVP for the media part of your platform.
Right.
Which again, everybody go visit Radivision.com. We are talking, it's like going to Netflix. It is amazing. Not that we're going to see the Bridgertons there. We're going to be seeing Driven and Visionaries.
Well, my goal is to be the Shonda Rhimes of entrepreneurship. So I'm glad you mentioned the Bridgerton.
We're going to hold that then for you, Shonda Rhimes.
I don't pay her justice because she's actually a writer. I just come up with the concepts. Ours are all reality based because we want to tell your real story. Yep.
Yes. But the stories that will come in, yes, Laura, like yours, which is so fascinating and so meaningful, have Zaze's story on the olive groves and the women.
Exactly. Oh, I got tingles with that. Yeah, we definitely have to tell that story. So you can film things.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what we built. We built a Netflix, basically a mini Netflix. Obviously, I don't have 3,000 engineers. But it's an advanced technology platform, and our data analytics are going in now, and we're building an AI engine to do even more. And we also built like a mini Instagram. So I was building what I felt, is the media platform of the future, because I don't think we're just going to take television and we're putting it on streaming and going, okay, now, this is the new technology. I think it's going to be about interacting with your audience, interacting with your customer. And for me, there are so many entrepreneurs, there's millions. They say now there's 100 million new startups a year. Can you believe that? And 90% will fail, which is a tragedy. So
it doesn't have to be that way. Don't go it alone.
No, maybe some of those shouldn't have been started. They're the wrong business idea. Let's at least save that agony. And then let's help those, where it is the right business idea, and let's connect them to the resources. And so we built this mini Instagram platform where you can have a person profile page for the amazing founders who I want to all make big stars, because everyone is fascinating. They're inspiring and innovative and creative and risk-taking and hard work. This is the stuff heroes are made of. And then we have the startups who are also heroes in themselves. And then you can upload your own media and information. You can create posts. You can copy posts over, super easy. And I've made it more user-friendly than you don't have to go in and do this daily, and then we can take that content and push it through our platform. So we don't only have our originals, but we want to push your content as well. So your content is our content. So I've created a platform that will help support your marketing, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's free for you. So
yeah, and Raja, with Invisaware, all the stories of lives that have been saved. One of my favorite stories is the car crash this young woman was in. Car accident, and phone, who knows where that ended. She was upside down hanging from her seatbelt, but she was able to do this twice. So first responders got there, but also you get to put in 5 contacts into their app. So her dad knew she'd been hurt.
Wow.
And so he was able to get there and hold her hand while they cut her out.
Aww.
Stories like that, preventive, where people were, saved by this device. Those are beautiful, meaningful stories. All of you who tune in have these kind of stories, and it's free to be on the Radivision website, right, Mona?
Right, and we want your stories. So we're coming out in February with our next editorial production. So this is like our magazine cover story, Radical Visionary, and it's the stories of our own members. So everybody has created a profile and uploaded content. We're taking you one by one, and we have our interview show that's live. We want to interview you. We want to put you in Visionaries episodes, and we want to put you into social media posts so people click and watch your stories. And so we want to give you free marketing and PR and get people excited because you're wonderful.
Yeah. And so you're creating high level, driven, parachute, vision, all this high level content that showcases entrepreneurs, which they all need showcasing because the fact that you got up and made it that day and got up and are doing what you're doing is just extraordinary. So Radivision is doing that. But so that is the multimedia platform side of Radivision, Mona. Then you have the other side, which is the fintech side, the private, democratizing private markets. Please share with everyone your vision for that. Right.
So we know that the SEC, they're trying to do everything. They created even crowdfunding, which I think is 100% exposure to a 90% failure rate industry. It's very risky. And they really want to open up retail investors again, who've been cut out for 20 years, right? And the retail investors, believe it or not, they represent a $40 trillion asset class. So 401ks, IRAs, and insurance and the other classes together make up $40 trillion in the US alone. Okay, talk about the power of the people. So most of the large institutions will invest 0 to 5% in a high risk alternative asset like a venture capital class. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's even more risky if you don't have the professional VCs, the professional managers, right? So we want to take care. The SEC's job is to take care of the consumer investor who isn't a professional investor. So they don't get taken advantage of like 1929 and other times. So this 0 to 5% represents $400 billion to $2 trillion, of an investment asset that could be investing in the private markets. The SEC wants this to happen. They're rolling out the red carpet. I want to make sure that it's done responsibly, that Wall Street doesn't just bubble and crash this. And I believe there's ways of doing that. And so we know from 11 years of Shark Tank, there's this Shark Tank effect. People watch the show and they click. They buy millions of dollars of product overnight. They download apps by the millions. So we know they're engaging through the show. And we want to activate the third click because we know Radivision will have the same, effect. The third click will be the ability to invest, but it's not crowdfunding. Our goal is to create the interest, educate people in these companies and how equity works, and then refer them in large numbers to investment managers who can work with these groups and put them into the right products. So
wonderful.
So maybe they can invest as a seed, into seed funds. Maybe they go into crowdfunding. Maybe they go into other things. But we want to activate this ability.
Yeah. And also the fact that you have these wonderful visionary stories right there. So they get a good feel of who the founder is, or the founding team is, what they're doing, how they're moving their business, and they can come in and just, instead of having to be like a tsunami of deal flow their way that they can't possibly get to, and then they've got to all work on it. The whole team can go and investigate and kick the tires and feel the vibration and get excited about what a founder does. And if what they're doing resonates with their agenda for investing, or even just resonates with their heart and soul. Thank you, angel investors. And so, because you're taking them from around the world and you're bringing them onto the site. You're going to have them by industry so people can go in and find. I mean, how will you circulate?
Right.
So
that's where the AI comes in and is very handy, because it's not cost effective for stockbrokers to be around anymore. They used to get 25 cents per share trade. And when we went electronic trading and decimalization, it became fractions of a penny. Yeah. So they had to shift their business to high net worth individuals. So the AI can replace that. It can do this for fractions of pennies, and it can filter. It can bring you into an industry you like. So say you want to have only environmentally friendly, companies that you're investing in. That can be a filter that's added. The investors, the VCs, can also see which companies are, connecting more with consumer audiences, for example. And so they get a lot of data to see who's really popular, what stories are resonating with people, and that might get you an investment that you may not have gotten through the noise otherwise.
Right. And also they may have an agenda as well to be looking for diverse founders.
Exactly.
Female founders, BIPOC founders, et cetera. So then they can use the AI and filter that as well. Whew, Mona, oh my gosh. You have been.
Yeah, sorry to add to that. We have we're going to have these monthly editorials starting. So our first one in February is Radical Visionaries. It's our own people. So sign up and create your profiles now so we can tell your stories in February and probably March too. And then we're going to tell the story about wellness technology, because people are so stressed out today. So there's a lot of new companies dealing with this. We have Sheconomics that we're planning for later in the year for women. So we'll be highlighting probably 75 amazing women investors and 75 amazing women founders, telling the story of great research studies and how all the numbers go up with women. So, it doesn't make any sense. It should be the other way around. 98% is going to women, and diverse teams. And then we also have a new editorial and a new show that'll be coming out called Black is the New Green, to really highlight, opportunities for Black entrepreneurs.
Right. The new majority hashtag. So Mona, all this time you're going along, how have you funded this incredible vision that you have launched? I mean, the ability to just even getting that MVP filmed at such high quality film, getting the Emmy producer to come in, make sure it was at the quality that you wanted to position your brand at. This is really hard to do, folks. A lot of times people want to be, quote, a premium brand, or they want to position themselves, but they don't know how to actually get there. You did. How did you fund this along the way?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest and say that, it wasn't easy. None of the process has been easy. Okay. Yeah. So you think at this point in my career, I've done several businesses. This is my fourth own startup. I've been part of 10 startup teams. I've raised billions of dollars for others. And this was very challenging. So luckily I honestly didn't want to have venture funding early. So I was prepared to self-fund for 2 years, and we've lasted 4 years, and we've only really done one round, an angel round of funding, and it was small. So my hope was that with this 1 million viewers and this 100,000 people on the website, that Hollywood would get as excited as I was, and that they would make a purchase, and that we would start selling and licensing content, and because content demand was booming, and it went from 60 billion to 120 billion in 3 years, so doubled in a very short time. And they were buying. This is Netflix budgets and everybody else, and now it's booming even faster with so many more streaming platforms coming online soon. Yeah. So I really honestly thought, well, I can just bootstrap this on my own. This is better than having to fundraise and waste time doing that. And Hollywood, when I came to them, they were like, well, the numbers are nice, but your branding is wrong. We don't like your site. They don't do MVP in Hollywood. So that was a whole other lesson for me. I've mastered DC and, regulatory stuff. And I've even gotten past and New York and Wall Street and IPOs, and here in Silicon Valley the private markets. But LA and Hollywood was a whole other, universe.
Well, and that makes sense knowing that Quibi launched after they had it all pulled together, because that's what they were used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tech. They were very tech focused, and so I'm very sad that they left. But remember, a company fails when the founder decides to stop, essentially. And I got that from Jason Calacanis from his wonderful book Angels. If you haven't read it, you should. And it's really true. You only fail when you stop. So there's many times where I could have stopped, but I didn't. And then Silicon Valley doesn't really invest in media. So after a couple of years, everything took longer. Silicon Valley doesn't understand media. They look at it as it's only one thing. It's hits driven. It's not a SaaS model. And then it's advertising and subscription based. So I didn't want to do either. No. So I work with brand partnerships instead, and original content licensing and sales. So like we have one show that our data analytics firm showed could deliver 7 million viewers to Netflix and 700,000 new subscribers, and that it would be worth a hair under about 5 million to them for the value of those.
Wow. So that's your business model?
Yes, original content sales and brand partnerships is the media monetization. So it can be free for the entrepreneurs, because I don't want to limit the number of entrepreneurs. I want everybody to join, like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. We want it to be free.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the fintech products is where, this becomes a unicorn, and where there's because our goal is to inspire Morgan Stanley, E-Trade, and Robinhood and others to build ETF-like products, for seed VCs to be able to pull together $1 million or 2 or 10 million of, retail investors and bring them in as a limited partner into their funds. So we hope to create a new source of funding for VCs in the industry. So everybody wins from that. And then they can fund way more companies, because now there's a lot more money in the industry. So that will be our longer term monetization model. And that depends on having a very robust viewership and content. Right. So we don't want to limit on that.
No, we don't. I'm going to play the video again one more time, because, it's one thing to play in the beginning. Everybody's, oh, that's nice. Now they know what progressed to get here. And I just want to do it one more time so you see the quality of what Mona's vision is on the Radivision platform. Okay, everyone, I just had to throw that back in again, because this is the quality of what you've pulled together is not easy, and it's so important. And I know there are founders right now going, okay, I'm over there at Radivision right now, setting up my profile. That can happen in February.
Yes, they should sign up now, and an email is going to go out in about a week to everybody and tell them how to do it, and then we'll get people scheduled for the interviews and everything.
And how are you increasing awareness of this incredible, remarkable brand, Radivision, and what is your vision for the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, number one, I'm here with you, Ande, and we're telling your amazing viewers and audience about what we're doing, and the great startups and community that you've built. So we want to support you, and you're going to be getting one of our emails, so you have your profile, and we want to tell your story, and people can learn from that.
Absolutely. And, because that is always the tricky thing. Again, you've built this incredibly hairy, audacious idea. And folks, when I met Mona, there was maybe 5 people on the team. And, watching that organization chart fill out, and Mona's just very clear what the empty slots are, when she needs to bring them in. She's done all that heavy lifting on the talent acquisition. But, you still need to, where's Eric when we need him right now for the media prepared? You need to get the word out. So folks, I want you to also spread the word about Radivision, send more folks over, get more folks to sign up, get ready, sign up yourself so that you can get your profile on this platform. Check out the visionary stories. That's you. I don't care whether you've got your empanada data with your empanada food truck, or if you are building the next big unicorn. Everybody's story is valuable and important. And when you get on another platform, if you don't know this, take this. And when you get on another platform, you will have not just the link backs, but it's a big platform like Radivision is really sticky, and it's going to actually benefit your business. Just like when you go and do a blind Google search on yourself, you're going to see, LinkedIn is going to be at the top, or your Twitter, wherever you're hanging out in social media, because that's a really meaty website versus your own website. Oh my gosh, Mona, this is like, I feel like I've been through this incredible journey with you, in the sense that look where you are today. And I said in the beginning, you are the ideal founder for this. And it's because you have been building along the way. So any founders who are struggling right now, especially during the pandemic, know that everything you're working on, you are building yourself to be better and better and better. Every time you tune into the Startup Life live show, you are building yourself to get better and better and better. And along the way, you don't know when you're going to be called to go even larger or do something that's so meaningful. Our backgrounds really lead to incredible outcomes. So Mona, along the way, oh, there's Eric. He is here. I'm here. Eric, everybody, Eric is media prepared. We're going to get him on the show so he can talk about how important this is to always, when they have the mic, whether it's a journalist or anybody ready to, talk to you about what you're doing. You've heard Mona. She's had her soundbite. She's been prepared to tell everybody why this site is working. You have to do that for your business as well. And that's what Eric does. Hey, Kevin. Yeah, isn't it cool? It is so cool. And then, yay, thank you, Raja, for telling everybody. That's great. And Laura, yeah, okay, and sign up.
Mona@radivision.com.
Beautiful. It'll be in the show notes, everybody, how to reach Mona, and I'll pop it into the comment threads as well, okay? So, like every founder on this incredible journey that we're on, you have to find a way to stay grounded, to stay in the moment, to not be overwhelmed by what you're going through. Share with us how you make your founder journey one that, when you're feeling inadequate, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling like you can't get out of bed, or what a stupid idea, what was I thinking? How did you come on the other side of that, Mona? And how did you say, you know what? I've got to stay focused. What advice do you have for other founders?
Yeah, so this is like almost every day, right? If you're a proper entrepreneur, we're working crazy hours, and it's one tsunami challenge after the next, and in a typical day, I'll have like 6 to 10 of those tsunami waves hit. So I'm very lucky because I recognized this 25 to 30 years ago. I started doing yoga and meditation, and they've saved my life. So this is how I keep my energy really high. I stay at peak performance. And I also, now I'm smart enough to know to sleep more. So I used to always cut my sleep to work more. And I realized that that's really a mistake. So people sleep well, try to eat really good nutrition, because that makes a big difference too. Coffee and sugar, they're just going to really make you stress out more. They may give you a temporary boost, but long-term chronic stress and ill health. So yoga and meditation have changed, my startup trajectory. I couldn't do what I'm doing today without them. 100%.
Well, it's a good thing you were barefoot and running a yoga studio.
Yes.
And, I will never forget that. There I was, barefoot, running a yoga studio, and then boom, 6 months later, I'd raised $500 million for an IPO. Such a great story, such great advice. Folks, this is why we have water bottles. You saw me grab mine earlier. Stay hydrated, because it keeps your brain hydrated. Also, it's great to move your body. So if that means just jumping up and getting, dancing to some of your favorite tunes, do that. And just always remember to keep mixing in your fear and doubt, right, Mona, into the cake batter. Because
yeah, you got to face it. And the more you breathe into it, you have a fear, feel the fear. The more you try to feel the fear, it just like runs away from you. Actually, it's a trick I recently learned. So get into it.
Yes, get into it. The fear,
you run away from it, it gets bigger.
It does get bigger. That's why you take it by the hand. Or as I say, in your cake mix, blend it in. Like the baking soda tastes terrible. Fear is awful. But when you blend it in, you're cooking it for a great, successful outcome. And then, as Mia Voss showed us a few weeks ago, she calls it the bong breath, right? So if you're breathing in the bong, that breath, that oxygen can calm you down. I have one that I like to use, which is breathing in first through one nostril and then out the other, and then in that nostril and out the other. That's an Ayurvedic. These are things that we can do, and when everything is hitting the fan. And of course, reach out to folks. Do not do this alone. Mona has a great support system, and you need one too. It's so key. So, you had these great female role models, Mona, who showed you that you can be ambitious and be fulfilled and have a career that's meaningful for you, faceted, multi-staged. And at the same time, you saw the path that you wanted to carve out for yourself. You weren't sure how it was all going to look, but you said yes when the opportunities arose. How has entrepreneurship, as you're looking back over the last few decades, how has it served you both professionally and personally?
I have not had one boring day in 30 years. Maybe a little too exciting sometimes, but it's been very creative, very innovative. I feel like I've really, pushed every day and worked at my highest level. And I look forward to manifesting the full vision of Radivision, so I can look back and say, I helped so many people, and I helped empower people economically. And that's what makes it satisfying for me, because I finally figured out that I'm a born humanitarian. And so, to feel like I've helped so many people is just the greatest joy that I could possibly create in my life. So I don't know that I would have gotten that in any other way.
No. Can we get a high five for everybody on that moment right there? It is an extraordinary journey. And as I wrap things up, because, I could go on talking to you forever, because I could go into a lot of the details, because I'm so curious and I love hearing and then how did you do that? We do need to take a break right now, take some breaths, as Kevin says. There's a new book out there called Breathe or Breath, I'm not sure. Thank you for that, Kevin. What final thoughts do you have for the Startup Life Live audience, which is primarily first-time founders, some experienced founders, but mostly those who are side hustling or in it right now and trying to figure their way out? What's some last thoughts about that, and some last thoughts about Radivision, please?
Yeah, I think, a bit of advice is just, it's going to be better tomorrow. So if you're struggling with an issue, sleep on it. You will always wake up and it'll be better tomorrow. And don't run from the problems, focus on them, like the fear, and the more energy and breath you put into it, the solution shows up. So just, keep going, but also know when to pivot. Keep flexibility there. So maintain your stamina, but keep your flexibility, and have great advisors. I mean, it was wonderful for me to have Ande there from 2018, from my very first pitch, that I was winging it, and hearing Ande's enthusiasm gave me so much confidence to keep going, and she's been there through the years.
I know a powerhouse when I see one. And when you got done, I couldn't make it. I push people out of the way. Get over to Mona. But you said several things right there that I'm definitely going to say. Stitch that on a pillow. Great, great, great advice. Tomorrow it will be better. All right. Breathe into the situation. You had several really good pieces of advice there. Mona, thank you so much for being willing to come on and share with the Startup Life Live community your incredible, incredible startup story, all the different things that have made you uniquely qualified to be the founder of this bold and bodacious and audacious idea, Radivision. So thank you. I know we all loved learning more about you and the business, and I'm just so thrilled you were willing to share it with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Ande, and thank you, great audience.
And I can't wait to see you again in person.
Me too.
When the pandemic is over, I'll come out there. Well, there we go. Exactly. So, folks, wasn't that amazing? I mean, we need these role models like Mona showing us the possibilities, and also just to share as spectators. If that's not, where you're going to be headed, that's okay. It's kind of fun to cheer someone on and go, what the heck? That was amazing. How is she doing that? I agree 100%, Ibrahim. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Ande, for the inspiration and positivity. Yay. And Raja, thank you too for tuning in. Always blessed to know you, my beautiful founder. And yes, Laura, Mona is a born humanitarian. Isn't that beautiful? And I know that you're going to look back, Mona, and just feel so good about everything you've done. Founders, everything you're doing is so important too. I'm so glad that you carved out the time to tune in and get some wisdom, some nuggets, and some what she said. She did what? As I said earlier, I'm never going to forget that. One minute I was barefoot running a yoga studio, and then 6 months later I'd raised 500 million, and then the phone call for Silicon Valley to fix the IPO market. Oh my gosh. But each step of the way, it was preparing Mona. And I want you to always be prepared too. You really don't need to do this alone. I provide what I call on-demand founder coaching. And I would love to hear what's going on for you, see how I can help you. You can easily book a free 15-minute conversation with me, scan the QR code, and find time for us to chat about what's going on with you. I don't do the traditional, sign up for 3 months, so many hours a month. As a founder myself of 4 businesses, I always wish I had like the hotline, someone I could call and say, help. And that's how I provide support for founders. And I do phenomenal pitch deck reviews because I've raised millions, I've raised thousands, and I co-host a monthly pitch event. So I understand the pitch process. And then for you female founders, the WeBank application, I'm your gal. I can help you fill that out. To stay and receive an alert whenever I have another new incredible guest like the magnificent Mona, I'd love it if you would hop on over to my meetup group and join it. And that way you'll be alerted every time I bring on a new guest. I'm usually here Tuesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. This way you'll know who's coming up and what's going to be happening next. And thank you. Oh, thank you, Laura. That's so great. Oh, wait, I got to keep these up for a while. Raja, thank you. Hey, this is what you have to do, folks. You've got to take in the testimonials and just go, thank you so much for that. Founders, I know that you are working through a lot. I know you're going to figure whatever it is going on for you. You're going to stick with it. Mona gave us great advice today, and I'm here to say to you, stay focused, stay safe, stay strong, stay resilient, stay flexible, do your yoga. And remember that you've got this. You really, really do. I can't wait to see you next time. Stay in touch on social media and let us know. Did you like the show? Like it, comment, share the show, okay? See you next time, everyone.